So here uh, in this we are going to consider discuss about optical network transmission modes, layers and protocols, synchronous networks, synchronous transfer mode, that is ATM, and optical transport network. Optical network transmission modes, layers and protocols. So these optical fiber networks are entirely dependent on optical framework, and these network structures usually incorporate complex combinations of both optical and electronic infrastructure, so that we have seen with several devices earlier with several topologies. The optical infrastructure present in such network is constituting a transparent optical network, which is utilizing an optical signal transmission where electronic devices can be used for signal control or to provide the method of interconnection to a number of other networks. So therefore, a practical scenario is going to be considered here. The use of the combination of optical and electronic domains where different devices are required to communicate with each other. So in order to establish a connection for a transmission between different segments of the optical fiber network. The end points of the optical network usually comprises of network nodes and network stations. So the nodes connect the fibers here within the optical network, while the stations connect the optical network to the non-optical system in the electronic domain. So this is how the connection between the nodes optical network is done with respect to the electronic domain. The nodes are also used here to provide the functions that is going to control the optical signals, whereas the stations provide the terminating points for an optical signal. The stations and the nodes are comprising of optoelectronic and photonic components. So photonic components may include laser photodetectors, which is normally used for converting the optical signal to electrical signal. Then couplers or splitters, switches, amplifiers, regenerators, wavelength converters, etc. So these are the photonic components which can be used either. So if I consider that we have a combination of both optical and electronic components here, with which we can communicate with each other so that we can establish a connection for the transmission between the different segments of the optical network. So in order to establish useful communication between this among different network elements, we are going to consider this transmission types, rules and protocols, which make networking implementation more straightforward. So that is how we are going to consider here. Then we have a synchronous networks. So the pre-existing multi-channel PCM transmission hierarchies are used here for the telecommunication network. In Europe, North America and Japan were already provided with this. So a schematic of the way in which the European hierarchy is multiplexed given here with 140 Mbps with 32 Mbps 30 channels which are used here, and with this multiplexing strategy which is currently adopted throughout, we have a transmission circuit which is taken here as a European example, and that is independent clock to provide timing and synchronization task, and this results normally in slight different frequencies which occurs throughout the network, and they are termed as asynchronous transmission process, whereas we have frequencies of different values, or we have signals of different frequencies which are used together. And this strategy of using different frequency signals are better suited for transmission of bits, which suffers a drawback in order to multiplex the different levels, without signals at different levels. So we require bit stuffing, which has to be carried out in order to maintain the synchronous operation process. So the presence of bit stuffing in this existing hierarchy, that is the synchronous digital hierarchy, we call it as PDH, makes it virtually impossible to identity and extract an individual channel within a high bit rate transmission link. So to obtain an individual channel, the whole demultiplexing procedure to various levels must be carried out. So this process is complex and very uneconomical. So whenever we consider about future telecommunication networking requirements, such as dropping a signal or inserting a signal with where individual channels are extracted or inserted, so that becomes very uneconomical. So moreover, a substantial saving in electronic hardware together with the increased reliability can be achieved by this process, and from 2 to 140 Mbps the speed can be increased too, and it has got a multiplexing and demultiplexing capability, which is as depicted here. And if I consider a fully synchronous digital hierarchy, so that is required to enable the international telecommunication network to consider this optical fiber era. So in particular, if I consider that, we would have a process of add drop of lower transmission rate channel groups from much larger, higher than the speed groups without the need for banks of the multiplexers. So further, if I consider the 1980s, the lack of standards for optical networks can be considered, and by one manufacturer would not necessarily interconnect with all these manufacturers. There should be ability to mix and match different equipment, which was restricted. So we require a standardization towards this optical network, which is synchronous optical network, is done, and that is done by United States in 1985. We call it as synchronous optical network SONET. But there were some modification done later with respect to the original proposal given. But this asynchronous environment operation with the network has a problem with incapability between the existing European and North American hierarchies. So in the later, if I consider the SONET concept, which results in the recommendation of new synchronous digital hierarchy, these recommendations were published later. So there was the extensive discussions between the two standards with which these two hierarchies are remain the same. So the SONET standard is ultimately developed by ANSI, which defines a digital hierarchy with a base rate of 51.84 Mbps, and the OC, that is the optical channel notation, refers to the optical carrier level signal, and hence the bit rate what we prefer to use here is OC1. The STS level in brackets, what we have seen there earlier, which is going to refer, so that we have written it in brackets, refers to corresponding synchronous transport signal, from which the optical carrier signal is obtained after scrambling to avoid a long string of ones and zeros. And hence clock recovery at the receiver and electrical to optical conversion is done. Thus STS1 is a building block of SONET signal. So these are the optical channels, and these are the signal hierarchy in bits per second. So higher level signals in hierarchy are obtained by the interleaving process, where a byte is 8 bits. An appropriate number of STS1 signal is used here, and this STS1 frame structure is precisely having uh, a line rate of 125 microsecond, and hence there are 8000 frames per second. And this structure enables digital voice support at 64 kbps, which is having 1 byte per 125 microseconds, and the North American standard DS1 24 channel 1.544 mbps, as well as the European 30 channel signal, which can be accommodated with the 2.048 mbps. So this results finally with 9 rows. The STS1 frame structure, which is a basic structure, has got 9 rows and each of 90 bytes, which therefore provide a total of 810 bytes or 6480 bits per 125 microseconds frame. So this results in 51.84 Mbps base rate depending on this above 9 rows. And out of this, the first 3 bytes in each row contain the transport overhead bytes, leaving the remaining 783 bytes to be designated as the payload envelope, a synchronous payload envelope, the information. Apart from the first column, which is used for the path overhead, the remaining 774 bytes in this constitute the data payload. The transport overhead bytes are utilized for several functions such as framing, scrambling, error monitoring, synchronization, multiplexing, etc., so that it can easily provide end-to-end communication between the systems which are carrying the digital voice, video and other signals, which are to be multiplexed into the STS signal. In this case, a path is defined to end at a point at which the STS signal is created, so that it is multiplexed into its lower bitrate signals. So this does not have to be contained within a single frame. It may commence in one frame and end in another. A payload pointer within the transport overhead is employed to designate the beginning of this SPE. So this is how the SPA frame is, and it provides a flexibility which is required in order to accommodate different bit rates and a variety of services here. And moreover, it can accommodate several signal rates, virtual tributary, defining 4 rates: 1.72 Mbps, 2.3 Mbps, 3.4 Mbps and 6.912 Mbps. So it may be observed that 1.544 Mbps and 2.048 Mbps signal stream can be mapped into VT 1.5 and 2 respectively here. Higher order multiplexing of a number is obviously important in order to achieve a higher bit rates required for wideband services. The format of STS-N signal frame is particularly given here with the byte interleaving STS1 signal. In this case, the transport overhead bytes of each signal are frame aligned to create the 3n bytes of transport overhead. So SPEs do not require any alignment since the service payload pointer is associated with the transport overhead bytes, which can provide the location of this appropriate SPEs. Then in this 125 microsecond frame structure, we consider it as a synchronous transport module STM, and the base rate of STM1 is 155.520 Mbps, which corresponds to OC3, optical channel 3 or STS3, as it is observed from the table. Hence these channels, European 140, 139.264 Mbps. The synchronous signal can be mapped within an STM1 signal when including a suitable overhead. So higher level STM signals also correspond to the SONET optical rates, which can provide a match for the appropriate multiples in the European asynchronous hierarchy. Again, the higher levels are formed by simple byte interleaving. So 155.52 Mbps channel can be readily identified within 40 Gbps stream. So moreover, this facility enables efficient management of an optical network. So further, it can be used between the nodes, dropping off the capacity to exchange for traffic switching. And this is known as dynamic synchronous transfer mode (DSTM), which employs circuit switching since it is a combination of optical switching and transport technology here. So dynamic synchronous transport mode is a time division multiplexing strategy where the time slots are divided into control slots and the data slots. The control slots here are used for signaling purposes and they are statically allocated to a node, where the data slots are assigned dynamically for the user for data transmission. So every node is allocated here with a few control slots and several data slots. And if necessary, the control slots can be converted into data slots or data slots can be converted into control slots depending on the traffic which is in demand. So it can support multicast where a slot can be accessed by several nodes on a bus or a ring topology. So this framing scheme, it further extends the scheme with a dynamic reallocation mechanism that can redistribute the bandwidth not being used by one user to another user who has a demand for it. So this is possible with a multi-rate bandwidth allocation in the slot of order of 512 kbps. For example, a total of 19,500 slots, each comprising 512 kbps, constitute a capacity of 10 gbps. So therefore, if DSTM is incorporated in a wavelength division multiplexing, then a large bandwidth can be segmented into 512 kbps chunks, which can be recalled dynamically. So dynamic synchronous transfer mode, which is a technology which includes both switching and also data transmission features. And therefore it can be considered as the next generation of SONET or SDH, which incorporates the switching process and provides configurable on-demand bandwidth allocation which can be done. Then we have asynchronous transfer mode. Asynchronous transfer mode ATM is a packetized multiplexing and switching technique which can combine the benefit of packet switching and circuit switching. And this ATM mode transfers the information in a fixed size units and they are called as cells, where each cell is going to contain the information identifying the source of the transmission but which generally contain less data than the packets. Unlike this fixed time division multiplex technique where each user waits to send in an allocated time slot, ATM is asynchronous and therefore time slots are made available on demand. To enable the correct segmentation and assembly of different cells at the destination, each cell contains significant information in addition to the data. So ATM cell is going to comprise the header, which is 5 bits, and a payload, which is 48 bytes. So it contains 48 bytes of data and 5 bytes of header information. So each single byte in the header field includes different information to identify the destination, to identify the path, to identify the channel and the error control bits. So before sending ATM cells carrying user data, a virtual connection between the source and the destination has to be established. Then all the connections are going to follow the same path within this network once the virtual connection is established. During the connection setup, which is virtual, each control bit 1 or 0 generates an entry in the virtual path identifier or virtual channel identifier, VCI or VPI, translation table to inform the destination to receive the incoming packet. Then we have OSI reference model, Open System Interconnection Reference Model. It describes a standard architecture which is used for designing networks. It shows the structure. We see that OSI network reference model that identifies the functions of the 7 levels or layers. The application layers, which is at the top of the hierarchy, as 7 layers, is going to provide a means for a user to access the information, to utilize the network by receiving the service such as database management, network management. So we have 7 layers: physical, data link, network, transport, session, presentation, and application layer. The function of physical layer is it has got a media, signal, and binary transmission, which is having a data unit in the bits. Then we have data link layer, which is having physical addressing where the data are considered to be the frames. Network layer, we have path determination and logical addressing where we have the packets. So these three are media layers. Then we have transport layer wherein we have end-to-end connections and reliability, which is a segment data limit unit is segments. Session layer, we have interhost communication process which can be done. Presentation layer, data representation and encryption. And in the application we have network process to application. So all this we have a data limit as a data, and these 4 layers are host layers. So if I consider this layer is the main interface for the user to interact through applications within the network. The 6th layer here is a presentation layer which transforms the data to provide a standard interface for the application layer. The session or the 5th layer is going to control the dialogues or sessions between the intelligent devices. Furthermore, it establishes, manages and terminates the connections between the local and the remote application. So it also provides duplex or half duplex operation, and it establishes checkpointing, adjournment, termination and restart procedures in a network. And the top 3 layers 5, 6 and 7 are the data driven levels. The 4th level is a transport layer which provides transparent transfer of data between the end users. So it is going to relieve the upper layers from any transport concern while providing reliable data transfer. The transport layer controls the reliability of a specific link through a flow control, segmentation, desegmentation and error control. So here some protocols what we are using are state oriented and connection oriented. So this means that the transport layer can keep a track of the packets and retransmit those who are going to fail. The best example of this 4 layer protocol is the transmission control protocol TCP, which is a connection oriented protocol that provides a basic data transfer between the nodes, which offer interconnection, flow control, multiplexing with reliable priority and security. The network layer at the 3rd level provides the functional and procedural method for transferring the data of variable length sequences from a source to a destination through one or more networks, while maintaining the quality of service requested by the transport layer. The network layer is going to perform network routing functions and also perform segmentation, desegmentation and report on delivery errors. Routers also operate at this layer for sending the data throughout the extended network, which makes the internet transmission possible. The remaining 2 layers are the data link layer and the physical media. The data link layer is going to provide the functional and procedural mechanisms to enable transfer of data between the network entities and to detect and potentially correct the errors that may occur in the physical layer. So this is how the structure of optical transport network layer is, and how the connection between OTNs and optical subnetwork is established. So in this particular layer we see network bridges and switches, which are operating and that connect the locally attached network nodes, which form two domains for unicast and broadcast forwarding. The best example for such a protocol, what we are using here is CSMA, that is Carrier Sense Multiple Access with Collision Detection, or the Ethernet protocol. Other examples of this data link protocols are high-level data link HDLC control and the advanced data communications control procedure for point-to-point or packet switch network. The physical layer is located at the bottom of OSI reference model, and it is going to define all the electrical, optical and physical media specification for the devices, such as fiber types, cable specifications, hubs, repeaters, adapters, etc. It establishes as well as it terminates a connection in the communication medium. It ensures that the communication resources are effectively shared among the multiple users. For example, if I consider, it implements contention resolution and flow control while also carrying out data conversion between the equipment and the signal requirement of the communication. Then we have optical transport network, OTN. An optical transport network is regarded as a set of facilities using optical fiber interconnections, which can carry the data between the network elements that switch or route the data from different customers into the network. So it is specified into ITU-T recommendation and it provides for the transport and multiplexing. Then the OTN has been proposed as a successor to SDH or SONET, which is the current standard for voice and data traffic in the public switching network. So it combines the benefits of SDH or SONET with dense wavelength division technology. So we have different layers, 4 layers, which are considered under ITU recommended G7.709 hierarchical structure. They are having optical channel, OCH, optical channel transport unit, OTU, optical channel data unit, ODU, and optical channel payload unit, OPU. So these has got 4 layers, which may also include 3 sections. Optical transmission section, OTS, optical multiplexing section, OMS, optical physical section, OPS. So these layers and sections in an OTN produce a confluence of inter and intra-domain interfaces, which enables the optical signal transmission to reach from one end to the other using electronic, optoelectronic or all optical interfaces. Figure provides the basic functional structure for the OTN layers and the sections, which facilitates the method for interfacing between different transmission domains. In order to get access for end-to-end networking of optical channels, we consider OCH layer is employed in the OTN structure. Then the OTU layer gives the additional functionality by adding forward error correction to the network elements and by allowing carrier operators to reduce the number of optical devices and switches used in the network, which can be done by using amplifiers, multiplexer or 3R regenerators. It also encapsulates 2 additional layers, the optical channel data unit, ODU, and optical channel payload unit, OPU. The ODU layer provides client-dependent connectivity, connection protection and monitoring, whereas the OPU enables access to the payload information of SDH or SONET signals. Different physical sections of the OTN are interfaced based on the information obtained from OTS, OMS and OPS. For example, OTS provides the required information about the optical transmission functionality for the optical signals, which can travel through the optical fibers, and any necessary switching operation can be done at the fiber end joints. Similarly, the optical multiplexing section, OMS, gives the means of networking for a multi-wavelength optical signal, whereas the OPS describes the optical characteristics of the physical section in order to produce the reduced functionality and which are not required to establish the interface between the two domains. So for example, a reduced functionality can be achieved by direct adaptation of OPS. Since both OMS and OTS are not necessary in the inter-domain interface. The control plane of the OTN refers to a set of protocols which are related to the signaling and routing for distributing routing control, connection management, and resource discovery when a connection is required to be established between the two networking nodes. Depending on the provision of fast, efficient, and reliable network connection, OTN can be made reconfigurable. An advanced type of reconfigurable OTN is referred to as an automatically switched optical network. This architecture is capable of switching the optical channels automatically when it is requested by. Unlike SDH or SONET, the OTN is a transport layer that can carry 10 gigabit Ethernet transmission from IP or Ethernet switches and routers at full bandwidth. So hence, if I consider the ongoing migration towards IP, the OTN is becoming the transport layer of a choice for network operators. Moreover, it also provides the legacy optical fiber networks to be combined into a common network infrastructure. So this is how the SONET or SDH network is considered in this section. By using several channels, we are going to consider it.